but here is Tim Pool. He, remember, like, part of like what he's doing here is trying to build up, what is it, like the manosphere? What is it? Is that what he's in now? He's trying to be...
Yeah, he's playing footsie with the manosphere, and I mean, generally just monetizing the alienation in society.
He's teaching his young male audience members, and like that's a cohort that I think a lot of right-wing influencers are after, teaching them how to be manly men.
High value men, right? Is that what his term is?
Yeah. To get a hot baby, a hot girl, and your Bugatti. I don't know.
I just love looking at a grown man wearing a knit cap all the time. Even I'm thinking about his suit that he wore to Mar-a-Lago with the knit cap, and then also saying the words "high value man." But okay, here he is. Trying to wax poetic about, when maybe someone would be happier.
He's reacting to a video that kind of went viral by a young woman who basically said it's tough to find people. And, there's a lot of problems with loneliness in the current society. We can get into the reasons for that, but that's what he's reacting to.
You know what you think? Would people like this be happier? I think about what society would have been like 100 years ago for this woman. She'd have gotten married at probably 18 or 19. She would, even in the 50s, she'd have a family and a house. But here's the funny thing. I wonder, would she be happier then? Maybe. As the saying goes, you don't know what you got till it's gone. They paved paradise to put up a parking lot. But humans live in a state of relative happiness. And that means that even today, as incredible as everything is, people are going to be upset. And don't get me wrong, coming from the highs of the Trump economy to the lows now, it's kind of like, I get it. Your cheeseburgers cost $5. I'm looking at the inflation charts for the average prices of McDonald's food. And you got these people being like, we'll stop comparing the highest, most expensive markets to the lowest. And it's like, dude, there's a chart showing the average price of all McDonald's. And it's gone from like $1 for a cheeseburger to $4. I said $5, but I'm being hyperbolic. It's $3.89 or something. With taxes, you're spending like $4.20. So yeah, I understand why people are getting upset, but I'd just be willing to bet that a lot of people like this, if it was the 50s, they'd be like, I'm so unhappy because my husband does this and does that. And they don't know what you got till it's gone. I'd be willing to bet. You ask this lady, would you be willing to be a stay-at-home wife? No career. Your husband's in charge of the finances outside the home. You're in charge of things inside the home. Would that be acceptable to you? You'll have kids. You'll have a family. You'll have community. I'd imagine at this point she'd say yes. Community? I think a lot of women would say yes. And I think you've got in this modern society, this is, women being told, you want to have a career, you have to be responsible for yourself. And there are a lot of, and this is. It's not unique to women, or I should say it's not only the fault of women.
Oh, good.
But it's also I'd say weak men. Our society in general is aflame. Right now, there are guys out there. These guys are average looking, and they are incels, involuntary celibate. For a while, we saw online, and hikikomori, Japan calls them. There was this one interview that came up like 10 years ago. And it was a guy saying that he was like an incel. And everyone's like, he's an average looking dude. He's like, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just like normal looking dude. But he was like, I can't get a relationship, blah, blah, blah. I think the challenge for this woman is feminism in every facet.
Oh, no way.
Telling guys to not be masculine. Telling women to be girl bosses. And I'll tell you what the end result is. I'm not saying feminism in general is wrong or anything like that. I'm saying that
it's sort of
the end result in large numbers results in things like this. So what do you
pause it for 1 second? I just there's so much. It's amazing how little he says, but how much of it is total BS.
Filling time.
When you say the big numbers are and the outcome is negative, I think you are sort of saying that feminism is a problem generally. But putting that aside, I just want you to think for a moment. In 1950, what would someone who doesn't have the ability to go outside or stay inside and take off his hat, what would that guy be doing? I mean, let's go back to 1955 and imagine what a 35-year-old Tim Pool would be doing.
It's Don Draper in a beanie.
I mean, first off, the toupee that he'd be wearing in 1952 would honestly look like a I don't know if you've ever had like a a sheepskin rug or something like that. If you would cut off a piece of that and put that on your head with some tape, what would Tim Pool be doing?
I mean, would he be in the same situation he's in right now as an unmarried man in his mid-30s? As he lectures everybody else about their inability to find happiness, including this.
Hey, he's got an extra room, Emma.
He heard it. Yeah, I think he can look at longingly and say, "Oh, soon I'll have a wife and kids in here." He's talking about this hypothetical incel. Is he sure he just didn't kind of catch himself in the mirror?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. Here's a guy. He's a multi-millionaire, according to what he's told us. He has multiple private skate parks, and yet he's just has to hire people to hang out with him around the office. I mean, that's why he's so upset about people dissing him by putting chicken grease down the drain. But imagine what this guy would be in 1950. I mean, just contemplate that for a moment. The other thing is that the saying, you don't know what you had until it's gone. She wasn't alive then. She never had it. So she wouldn't have known.
Well, women don't collectively know what they've had until it's gone. And then he said, paved paradise, put up a parking lot. I don't know what the relevance is to that. But
I would
Paradise
also,
where women are in their houses barred out on pharmaceuticals, waiting for their husband to get home and preparing a meal.
I would also add that for the first time in our history, life expectancy for men went down, and much of that was a function of despair, deaths, as in ODs and suicides. And the idea that that is a function of feminism, as opposed to perhaps something that's going on that is more broad about society in terms of alienation and in terms of isolation and in terms of maybe it's a function of technology, or maybe it's a function of the amount that we have to work.
Maybe watching hours of Tim Pool and Joe Rogan actually isn't the best thing for learning how to socialize with women. Maybe part of that's to do with it. I think it's really to do with people. There's no third spaces. You want to go anywhere in this country, you're gonna have to fork over cash to do it and hang out with somebody. People have less walking around money. It's all these sorts of things that we don't have a society that fosters socialization.
It's capitalism. It's everything else when he's not talking about racial civil wars. It's everything else that he's promoting.
Yeah,
that is leading to the isolation and alienation of these people.
And I'm sorry, she would be happier in the 1950s, as if there hasn't been so much art and film and television that explores the malaise of the housewife and the depression that she endured during the 1950s, not being able to have her own identity. Getting married, as he says, would be the ideal situation at 18 or 19 when she doesn't know any better, and essentially being locked down into a situation where maybe she could have met somebody that was more advantageous to her. But the unmarried childless man is lamenting the fact that women are not getting married younger, so that they have more of an ability to go out into the world and explore their options to find somebody that may actually meet them as an equal, as opposed to locking them down when they're teenagers, which is what he opened that clip that we had here with, to make it so that they can't escape. And that's what he says. They'd be happier in a gilded cage. It makes me think it couldn't just be that we've completely dissolved our social safety net to the point where women do have to work a lot of the time, or you have to have dual incomes to survive in this country, and you can barely survive as it is. It can't be that. It can't be that, half of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and don't have savings where they could actually
And
help
housing.
themselves out in an emergency. It can't be that. It must just be that women are getting too
Well,
picky.
Too
picky for
there might
themselves.
be
Yeah.
some lesser amounts of rape if women were chattel.
Right.
Still, because then you would.
Women, if you had less rights, you would be happier. Just
You'd be
trust me.
protected. You'd be property of a man.
Trust
and
me.
And then any type of assault on you would be an offense against a male, which of course is far less accepted in our society.
Yeah.
I genuinely think, and I've heard from my friends that are women, that a big problem with the dating scene these days is there are certain guys who are just obvious conservatives, and you
Oh,
do not want to date those guys. Sorry,
Yeah.
you're taking yourself out of the running, folks.
Well, that's what's incredible here. And, he focuses on appearance. Like, this guy, incel, good-looking, average-looking dude.
Yeah.
I mean, take it from me as a woman, and I'm engaged, right? So I'm locking myself down. I'm a part of this.
You're going to be owned by your
you're probably happy
fiance,
for it.
and that is you're in the catbird seat.
I mean, I'm a little bit further along on this trajectory than Tim. I think maybe his audience could take some advice from me on this
Yep.
front, so I'll give it to them. Listening to this kind of stuff is going to make you more and more alienated from
Yep.
women. When you continue to talk about the differences between men and women, when you define the roles in such an old patriarchal way, which is exactly what he's doing, or when you define gender roles in this way in general, it makes it so it's more difficult to have a connection because it's all about pre-identifying people as set fixtures in your mind as opposed to human beings. And that's really the barrier that Tim is dealing with as a still single person who is older than me, is the fact that he doesn't really have, and his audience and what he's teaching them to engage with, the ability to see women as full human beings and equals to them.
Yeah.
And the fact and instead of giving their audience the tools to do that and saying this is how you can relate to women more, it's about how can we go backwards in time? And so those guys are going to go, I know I'm talking a bit, but just give me a sec, Matt. Those guys are going to go out on dates and they're going to try to replicate the stuff that they're hearing in this incel media. And then they're not going to get a second date, and then they'll go back for more dopamine hits about how all those women are bitches, right? And then it's really... It's gross.
Exactly, because every time they aren't spending with a woman because they've alienated themselves by subscribing to this bullshit, they are going back to listening to podcasts. So the alienation is coming from inside the long-form conversation that you guys are fetishizing.
Right. And Tim ended our debate thing by and I still wish I called him out on this at the time, where he said there was some study that he read that conservatives are more attractive than liberals because they are not as burdened with empathy for other people, and that doesn't age them as much. Where it's the way you think about the world is just it's completely topsy-turvy and makes absolutely no sense. It's not about, when you categorize things like that, that's not the case. It's just about your personality, bro. That's really it.
And can we also just we'll go back to listening to this, but his put up this piece, because I know he got this from the New York Post, and so he's even lying about his McDonald's thing. All right, scroll down. This was the McDouble sandwich. Keep going down here. I know that's the Post, so it's almost impossible to read anything. This is not. Keep going down till you get to the McDonald's picture. Yeah, right there. The McDouble sandwich, which in 2014 cost an average of $1.19, now costs 3 times that amount, $3.19. So it is increased in 10 years.
That's not why women are not finding partners just because the McDonald's too expensive. I mean, it's a lot of these things, we're talking about, it's all the ways people feel completely crushed, which is that you have to work more to pay more of your rent. You have less money to go out and socialize. And we talk about Bumble saying we're going to do some sort of AI that gets people have every sort of concierge. It's What we really need is an extra day off work every week to go be among our fellow people and talk to them and learn how to interact with them as human beings. But instead we think of, let's figure out the newest app that we can
and grind more, right?
Exactly.
And continue to alienate yourself more and continue to chew up this content. And
earn those sports cars.
He's also wrong about the trend in terms of like what people are doing, like with their partnerships. Divorce rates, yes, people are getting married later, but divorce rates have actually been declining. And that's in part because women aren't jumping into a marriage at age 18 or 19 for in some instances, right? And it differs regionally. But like they're exploring their options and becoming full-fledged adults and people before they enter into these partnerships. And that's what's so like creepy about this is they don't want women. They don't like women. No. They like girls in their mind.
18 to 19.
18 to 19, which is what he said. Illegal, technically.
Easier to own them at that time.
Because
you can mold them in your image.
Because they can groom them. And
exactly.
which is amazing. Because apparently genderqueer is grooming people, but not the guy that wants to marry girls at 18 or 19.
The point is that if you get them while they're young, when they get a little bit older, they won't look at you and say, why are you still wearing a beanie inside? Are you 11?
Oh, an adult woman may question that.
That's my point.
But a high school senior may think that looks sick.
If you marry her when she's 16 or 17,
that is true.
It will not seem as weird to her that she wakes up one day and you're in your 30s and you're still wearing your helmet inside.
A 35-year-old woman versus an 18-year-old woman on the beanie question is...
right?
High variance.
Oh, I love Tim's so cool. He rides a skateboard. He's got a hat. And now, like 10 years later, oh, wait a second. I have my driver's license. What am I doing with this loser?
Child at heart.
All right, keep going. Incidentally, the Big Mac, too, has doubled in 10 years. The idea that this is a function of Joe Biden's inflation or whatever it is just absurd. Go ahead.
Not be masculine, telling women to be girl bosses. And I'll tell you what the end result is. I'm not saying feminism in general is wrong or anything like that.
That's sort of what you're saying.
I'm saying that the end result in large numbers results in things like this. So what do you get? Women who prioritize career over family, and now at 33 are like, why can't I find a relationship? Well, you were 26 when you started looking. What happened? 26? Wow. I mean, you go back in time, all of human history, and you've got 18-year-olds getting married, having families in their early 20s, grandparents in their 40s. And now at 26, you are like, I want to be with someone.
Can you pause?
I want to go see where he's going with this.
Well, I do too. But
I think he's saying that women should start looking for husbands at age 12?
No, he's saying 20. You should start at age 18. What? Thank you for protecting yourself legally, buddy. Women should start looking at 18 and then they'll get married younger. As opposed to 20. What it is what like
you're an old maid at age 26 and you're starting to look for a relationship.
The undercurrent here, and maybe he goes there, is that if there are women who are having sex, who are experimenting sexually in their early 20s, which is the most normal thing that you can possibly do, dating and figuring out what they like, they're sluts. Yeah. They should be locking themselves down early on because you're starting at 26? What were you doing all that time? Were you experimenting? Were you meeting people? Were you figuring out your own identity? No. It's a threat to my audience if you actually have an identity and your brain forms itself before we try to lock you down. And Tim, what have you been doing all that time?
Skateboarding. He's only 38.
Does this apply to men, or does it just apply to men who want to lock down 18-year-olds, as he just said a second time?
Go ahead.
He really likes that number.
At 26, you are like, I want to, be with someone. I suppose the challenge is for any guy who's got money, has succeeded, is strong, they're targeting 22-year-olds. That's what the data shows.
Targeting?
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying it's right. I know feminists, they get all angry when I say it, but that's what the data shows. The data shows that guys are choosing 22-year-olds.
What guys? How old?
What data?
The principal number. It really is. You take a
What a
look at
sight of
guys right
source.
now, and I want to rag on guys too, because I got to tell you, I don't know much about this lady. I do want to say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And if, as the saying goes, if you smell crap everywhere, check your boot. We see this video of this lady, and she's crying, being like, why can't I find a relationship? For all we know, like, she smells horrible, and as soon as the camera turns off, she like just starts farting a whole bunch. Who knows, right? I'm not saying she does.
It's a perv.
But I'm not going to just sit here and say that she's perfect either. She's 33 and single, and she's a woman. Like, there's got to be some reason for that makes her less desirable for most guys.
Oh my God.
But she also says guys are trash. So imagine some incel guy, socially awkward, untrained, pale skin, and I like,
Imagine.
an average guy. Do you know the average weight right now is 200 pounds for a guy and 5'8"? That's nuts.
Can we
This pisses
just
me
pause
off.
for a second? I have met Tim in person. I'm 5'8", 5'9". I think I'm taller than him. I may weigh more than him.
He's not 200.
I mean, I'm definitely not. Well, I'm not going to say my weight on air, but I don't think I weigh more than him. But I think I think I could take him like in a fight. I work out a good amount. I think I could take him in a fight. I think we're actually kind of a similar physical stature.
He's mentally not as tough as you, though, at all. I think I found Tim Pool's 22-year-old thing, and I think it's from a 2015 study by the or book by the OkCupid co-founder, and it found that men will like women who are 21, like an 8-year age difference is nothing compared to the 28 years gap between the 50-year-old men who think 22-year-old women are ideal. He wrote, a 50-year-old man idea of what is hot is roughly the same as a college kid's. Men may be most attracted to women in their early 20s, but many males end up with women who are in their age range or even older. In other words, this is not the same as them saying that they're targeting 22-year-olds.
It's a dating app phenomenon among dating app
well, first off,
participants.
it is like literally just making an assessment based upon a couple of pictures of
Exactly.
people. Putting that aside, even if you're saying, okay, do you find this person or that person more attractive, doesn't necessarily mean that they're even looking for them as a partner.
Right,
But
they may think
he's
they're
just-
hot.
he just
Exactly.
lied.
The pervs online. It's
Wow.
not seeking relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go through Instagram like butt models' followers, and then I'm gonna make a determination about what men are looking for in a partner. No, like they're looking because it's fun.
It's actually
This is the thing, is he says such, it's all of his stuff he's saying is such BS and completely nonsensical in many respects. I'm not taking issue with feminism in general, but I am saying that there are big numbers that blank, blank, blank. And then he just cites data that is absolutely just completely a lie.
And makes an assumption that she may be farting and smelling a lot because she's 33 and single. But what is the assumption that you make about yourself for being older than
What do you
33
think that
and
hat
single?
smells like?
Oh, I don't think it smells great. I don't think
Is there any more to this that we should watch?
I just. Does anyone in the audience just like think for 1 second? I know it's mostly young boys and and teenage boys,
And we're
he's
here to
trying
help.
to turn into incels. We're hoping to help you out here. Don't listen to this guy on dating advice. Like, do they not think for a second? This guy is describing exactly what he looks like, and then also is basically saying like, oh, this woman, there's something wrong with her for being single, but this incel that I'm talking about, who's I think good looking, and he's just trying to put himself out there. No benefit of the doubt given to this person, but to the woman, she smells and farts a lot.
Also, women should lower their standards, but also women, why'd you wait till you're 26 and basically not interesting for anybody, any of us pale 5'8", 200-pound guys that listen to Tim Pool.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.